Alright, so let's take a look at all the players selected to represent the Super Falcons at the upcoming Women's World Cup. Please make sure to like this video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you very much. And we start with the goalkeepers, of course. Chiamaka Nnadozie, the first player on the list, and that's Chiamaka Nnadozie of Paris FC in France. #1 goalkeeper for club and country, and that's been so for a while now. I mean, she's definitely a shoe-in to be the starting goalkeeper for the team when the World Cup starts. She had a fine season in France. Her team qualified for the Champions League in the second season in a row, and she has been a big part of that right there. Moving on, and next we got Tochukwu Oloihi of Akari Sport in Turkey. She basically became the second choice goalkeeper at the last World Cup. That was when Chiamaka Nnadozie took over from her, and since then she has been like #2 on the team, was #2 at the AFCON, did play the match against South Africa. Now, according to Super Falcons head coach Randy Waldrum, Tochukwu was actually suspended from the team, and that was because the NFF didn't like the way she talked to him. Apparently, he said it in an interview a couple days ago. I spoke about it on the channel yesterday. But I guess that's why she was not on the team in the last few matches the Super Falcons had played. Now, that being said, just like Chiamaka Nnadozie, Tochukwu Oloihi is a fantastic goalkeeper. She's won a women's AFCON for the Super Falcons before. Great penalty saver, a real great #2 option. Could be #1 for a lot of countries in this world right here that we live in. She's a top goalkeeper. Now, moving on, and last but not least of the goalkeepers, you got Yewande Balogun of AS Saint-Etienne in the French second division. She's been part of the Super Falcons squad since the summer series a couple of years ago. I believe that was in 2021. She also went to the women's AFCON with the team, and she made her first start for the Super Falcons not too long ago. It was a little mini tournament in Mexico. She got the appearance against Costa Rica. We actually won that match by a 0-0. I mean, we haven't seen that much from Yewande Balogun, but from the little bit we've seen, alongside with the credentials that she brings to the table, I believe it's a good selection for the third goalkeeper. Moving on to the defenders, and first we start with Onome Ebi. It says Abia Warriors on the thing, but I believe she was clubless up to the time of selection. So she made the move to Levante Las Planas at the beginning of the season, the beginning of this season that just ended. And the thing was, she didn't get any playing time like that. She played in like one match, a substitution appearance, and it wasn't even that long. I believe it was against Barcelona. Then around the halfway mark of the season, it was announced that both parties had mutually agreed to part ways, and that's about where we're at right now. There were the rumors of her joining Abia Angels during the season, but that never happened. Well, I guess she was going to play for them if they made it to the Super 6, but they did not qualify. She did start the Super Falcons' last 2 friendly matches, and I felt like she did okay in both matches. Actually scored the first goal against New Zealand. Now, I know there's always going to be the age debate when talking about Onome Ebi, especially lately, but I just want y'all to know that you should be trying to cherish these moments. Seeing such a great player do what she's doing is a historic moment, and this is not just somebody that's forced on the coach or somebody getting selected out of pity. I feel like she earned it out of merit, and she definitely deserves to be on this team and deserves to be celebrated too. I mean, how many World Cups has she been to? Record holder for the continent. I mean, who could forget her playing in the final of the women's AFCON with a broken arm? That was a really iconic moment in Nigerian women's football. Moving on, we got Osinachi Ohale of Alaves Deportivo. Alaves Deportivo, formerly of the first division in Spain, now in the second division in Spain. They finished dead last in the first division last season. Now, Osinachi, of course, is a central defender. Barring any kind of injuries or whatnot, I believe she will be a starter for the team come the World Cup. Now, for me, she's a top-class defender. really good on the ball, also can make some nice passes out the back. We saw that in the women's AFCON when she was basically the offense for a full match. So she got that in her locker, and I just feel like the main thing she got to worry about is her health. If she can stay healthy, she's more than likely going to have a good tournament. Next up, we got Gloria Bona of Besiktas in Turkey. That's in the Turkish First Division. She was actually part of another team in the Turkish First Division, ALG Sport. That was at the beginning of last season. Then she got sold in the middle of the season or loaned to Besiktas, where she ended the season. So Gloria Bona is a fullback. Her first position is at the left back position, but she can also play as a wing back. Was played as a central defender against the USA. That was in the last friendly match we played against the USA. She actually got an assist in that match. I don't think she's going to be the starter for the team at the World Cup, but I do believe she's a good option to have. Next up, we got Ashley Plump of Leicester City. Leicester City in the English First Division. That's the Women's Super League. Ashley joined the Super Falcons during the AFCON qualification. I believe that was during the match against Ivory Coast, if I'm not mistaken. She played in the 2 matches against Ivory Coast, and since then she has been a part of the team, a big part of the team. She was part of the women's AFCON squad also, and just lately she didn't play the last 2 matches, and that was because of injury. But obviously she's on the team. She's definitely a big player on the team. I felt like the coach was putting her in some tough positions earlier on in her international career. You got her playing as a fullback. Even in one of the last matches, he had her playing as a midfielder. I feel she's a central defender, and that's where you get to see the best out of Ashley Plumpter, and that's where she needs to be playing. I mean, she's always a player that's going to give her best whenever she's on the pitch, but at the same time, you got to put her in a position to shine. You can't just be putting her in any kind of position. Next up, we got Imani Moran of Stade de Reims in French. That's the French top flight. Now, she plays as a left back for the Super Falcons, and she also joined her club as a left back. That was from Rivers Angels to Stade de Reims. But right now, she has been playing as a forward, a left-sided forward for a club side. And that's crazy because the main reason people were really getting excited when she first got her call-ups into the team was because we felt like she's a player that's naturally a fullback. So that was going to be something that was going to work in our favor. But now the club is like she's a forward also. This is a player that has been playing as a fullback for a club in Nigeria, went to the women's under-20 competition, played as a fullback in that competition. But once she moves to a club, they're like, there's no place for you as a fullback right now. You got to play as a forward. And I don't think many people are going to turn that down. You might turn down playing as a fullback when you're a forward. But when you're a fullback and they say, hey, we need you to play as forward, you're not even going to let them ask twice. Next up, speaking of players who are forwards and asked to play as fullbacks, Michelle Alose of Houston Dash in the USA. She plays as a forward for a club, but for country, she plays as a fullback. She joined the team basically the same time Oneday Balogun joined the team, and her story is kind of crazy also. She said she asked one of her coaches at Houston Dash to call up Randy Waldrum asking if they needed an extra player, and he was like, yes, we need some extra players. And Michelle Alose appears, and her first appearance for the team was just fire, and her performance at that competition, I believe she scored against Portugal. She took everybody by storm, and here we are. I mean, I felt like the women's AFCON wasn't her best performance. I felt like her playing as a fullback in that competition was a little bit tough, but she's getting used to it. You saw her last 2 performances for the Super Falcons. She was just absolutely awesome against Haiti and New Zealand, and hopefully that's what we see at the World Cup. Now, last but not least of the defenders, you got Tosi Demahin of Stade de Reims in the French top flight. Of course, teammate of Imani Moran. They both joined the team at the same time right after the Under-20 Women's World Cup. toasting that man he was the captain of that side and helped lead them to the quarterfinals of the competition. Now after the under-20s, she kind of walked into the starting lineup for the Super Falcons. She played the first 2 matches, the first 2 friendlies after the under-20s. I believe that was against the USA, those 2 doubleheader friendly matches. And even since then, she has been getting consistent playing time with the Super Falcons. So I wouldn't be shocked to see her in the starting lineup for the team when the first match of the World Cup comes around. Moving on to the midfielders, and first up we got Halima Allende. Halima Allende of Rosengård FC in Sweden joined the club after the Women's AFCON, played in the UEFA Champions League with the club. They were bounced out in the group stage, but played in most of those matches. With the Super Falcons, of course, she got that red card in the semifinals of the Women's AFCON. That was against Morocco, and she's going to be missing 2 matches at the World Cup. She already missed the 3rd place match, so she got 2 more matches, the first 2 matches at the World Cup. Hopefully she plays more than 1 match. That would mean we go into the next round. Next up, we got another player who got a red card in that semifinal match, Rashida Tajibade of Atletico Madrid. As you know, she got the red card right after Halima Allende, and she's also going to be missing 2 matches at this World Cup. So Rashida is listed as a midfielder, but she kind of goes back and forth between midfield and the forward position. She plays on the right side of the offense sometimes, and sometimes also she plays as a midfielder. I honestly like her better as a forward. She plays in a club side as a forward, so I don't see why you need to be putting her in the midfield. Now with a club side, I feel like she's coming off a season of highs and lows. She had a lot of highs in the season, but definitely a lot of lows also. She started the season actually in the preseason. She scored against Bayern. They destroyed Bayern, and it was looking good coming into the season. She had the match that she scored 4 goals in, so that's definitely a big achievement right there. But I felt like she kind of ran into a wall at some point in the season. Maybe it was because she was given so much responsibility this season compared to last season. Last season she was coming off the bench, maybe starting a match here and there, but this season she was getting a good run of games back to back, so maybe that just took a toll on her. But the big positive out the situation is that she ended the season strong. She won a title with a club, the Copa del Reina, and she was a starter in the final match, played 120 minutes against Real Madrid. Moving on, and next we got Toni Payne. Toni Payne of Sevilla, also in Spain. She's a player that plays in multiple positions for the Super Falcons. She's played as a fullback, has played as a forward, also of course as a midfielder. A little backstory about Toni Payne: she started her career with the U.S. youth teams. She actually was a big player for the U.S. youth teams. She played at the Under-17 World Cup, scored a couple goals there. Now I believe her first match for the Super Falcons was in 2021. That was at the Turkish Women's Cup, and since then she's been a big part of the team under Randy Waldrum. She's not missed too many matches for the Super Falcons. Now when it comes to a club side, Sevilla, she's been there for a few seasons now, definitely a big part of the team. She had a match with a hat-trick of assists this season. She's had a couple of good matches this season, but that being said, I would definitely expect her to be in the starting lineup, probably in the midfield for the first 2 matches. Next we got Christy Uche. Christy Uche, Benfica in Portugal. Now Christy, I believe, will be the option to replace Halima Allende for those 2 matches. I mean, I believe there's a real sound argument that could be made that says she should start regardless if Halima Allende is available or not. I mean, you go back to the Women's AFCON, she didn't start the first match. She came off the bench in the second match. Powerful header to score, and since then she was in the starting lineup, but she did start on the bench in the last 2 friendlies the Super Falcons played. I believe that was because of injury issues, which she did struggle with from time to time this season. Next, we got Deborah Bassey in the house. Deborah Bassey of Pittsburgh University in the United States of America, of course. So she just recently moved to Pittsburgh, and that was from Rivers Angels in the Nigerian Women's Football League. Of course, she played at the Under-20 World Cup with the Falcons, and she was also part of the first Nigerian club side to play at the CAF Champions League, the CAF Women's Champions League. That's with Rivers Angels. Now, when it comes to the selection, I definitely feel like Deborah Bassey is a quality player. She's somebody that can play all three positions in the midfield. She could be a defensive midfielder and shield your defense. We saw that against Japan in the friendly match. She could be the box-to-box, or she could be an attacking midfielder, which she was almost like at the Under-20 World Cup. But at the end of the day, the problem remains that she hasn't had that much action this season. Barely had any action this season. She played 1 or 2 matches in the league for Rivers Angels. Then she got injured, and right after that it was announced that she was moving to Pittsburgh University. I probably would have liked her to play in the Super 6 with Rivers Angels, but she had to move on to Pittsburgh to get into summer school and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I believe in equality all the way, but I just hope that she's not rusty from the lack of action. So moving on, and last but not least of the midfielders, we got Jennifer Echegini. Jennifer Echegini of Florida State in the United States of America. So Jennifer was born and raised in London. She actually played for Arsenal before she moved to the United States to continue her studies. She made her debut for the Super Falcons last year against Canada. I believe she came off the bench in the second match against Canada. And of course, she recently scored her first goal for the Super Falcons. That was against New Zealand. She's been a starter for the Super Falcons in the last 2 international breaks. So I believe there's a big chance she starts for the team at the World Cup. Moving on, and first forward on the list, we got Uchenna Kanu of Racing Louisville in the US of A. She recently moved to the club from Tigres in Mexico, and that was after a record fee paid by Racing Louisville. Over in Mexico, she had a real good time. They won the league title after winning the playoffs at the end of the season, but the only down part were the injuries for Uchenna Kanu. She struggled with injuries during the playoffs. She missed the final 2 matches of the playoff. Then they played a friendly match against Bayern. They won that by 1-0. Uchenna Kanu scored the goal in the first half, but also she was injured in the first half. She had to be taken off. With the Super Falcons lately, it's almost kind of the same type of situation. Her last start for the team was against Japan in that friendly. Then her last goal was against the USA. What a beautiful goal it was. But when you look at the last 5 friendly matches the team has played, she was used sparingly in the 3 matches in Mexico. Then the last 2 matches, she didn't even play a single minute in either one of them. But that being said, she has been available for a club side in the past weeks, and the hope would be that she could stay healthy going into this competition, because she's definitely a player that can make something happen for the Super Falcons. Moving on to the next forward, we got Gift Monday of UDG Tenerife in Spain. That's the Spanish First Division. She joined the club basically during the women's AFCON, the last women's AFCON. She moved from FC Robo in the Nigerian Women's Football League. That was after winning the league with Bielsa Queens. She went on loan to Bielsa Queens, then went to the women's AFCON and was sold by FC Robo. So that's the sequence of things. She moved to Spain. She had a pretty good season in my opinion. Not the amount of goals that even I predicted for her. I felt she would have scored more goals, but she was playing on the wings, mostly on the left side of the offense. Now with the Super Falcons, I feel like Gift Monday can bring some a little bit different from the other forwards on the team. If you look at the other forwards, you got Odega, you got Oshwala. They're players that like to cut in on their right, but Gift Monday is a player that can actually run the lines, hug that touch line, and that creates a lot of space for the team. And this is a player that is really needed on the team, because there's no other player that's going to do that. So I really didn't understand at the last AFCON what was really the problem. She had the debut, she had the good game, then after that it was like crickets. Then after the women's AFCON, what's happening? Why is she not getting selected? She gets selected this time. You finally put her in the game against New Zealand, and you see what she did. She was part of the goal that was scored. So in my opinion, the coach got to make a little bit bigger room for Gift Monday in his plans. He might not have that much room for her at the moment, but he needs to, because she's a player that can really help the team. She brings something different, like I said, and hopefully she gets the opportunity she deserves at this World Cup. Moving on, and next we got Ifeoma Onome of Gotham FC in the USA. She joined the Super Falcons at the Summer Series in 2021. The Summer Series, of course, hosted in the US, and she's been part of the team ever since then. Of course, had that big moment, the 2 goals against Ivory Coast in the Women's AFCON qualification. Then the goal in the Women's AFCON, that was her only goal of the competition, but she did get the big time assist against Cameroon to get us in the World Cup. Now lately her form has kind of been missing in action. She has been struggling for both club and country, and you're talking about a player who is one of the best upcoming strikers in the league, and at the moment she's struggling to even get some game time. Now that being said, obviously you never want a player to be coming into bad form when a competition like this is happening, but this is totally normal. This is something that happens in football all the time. Players lose form. You look at the Super Eagles, Odion Igalo, Victor Osimhen, Taiwo Awoniyi, Kelechi Iheanacho. All these players have gone through moments that they struggle for both club and country, but all those players came out of it. So there's no reason why Ifeoma Onome can't come out of this situation right here. But even as I say that, you have to wonder if this is the right place for a player to come to try to catch her form. I mean, you look at Odion Igalo at the 2018 World Cup, almost the same situation. Moved to China, was just getting over his time in Watford, how it ended. Then you go to the World Cup, you make a mistake, and nobody's trying to hear anything. Nobody's trying to hear, oh, he was struggling at Watford, and nobody's trying to blame the coach. Everybody's gonna be blaming that particular player. But the funny thing is, if you follow that story all the way, Odion Igalo missed that chance against Argentina and went to his club side and scored the same exact chance when he got back. As a matter of fact, I felt like the chance he scored was way harder than the one he missed, and he stayed on that same form all the way till we needed him in the next AFCON qualifiers. And you think about that, what if the coach just didn't select him for the World Cup, let him keep doing his thing at his club? He would have been selected anyways for the AFCON qualifiers, and he would have not have had to go through what he went through after the World Cup. Moving on, and next we got arguably the greatest African women's footballer of all time, Cicero Schwaller of Barcelona in the Spanish First Division. Coming off another big time season with FC Barcelona, won 3 titles during the season: the league title, the Spanish Super Cup, and also the Champions League, the UEFA Women's Champions League. Now, even though she scored a bunch of goals this season, picked up a bunch of trophies, she still has struggles with injuries, and it's kind of really amazing when you look at her numbers and the amount of matches she missed. She missed some months of football this season, the biggest of which was the Champions League final. She got injured like 2 or 3 weeks before the final, and there were a whole bunch of questions. Would she play? Would she not play? Even all the way to the last training before the final match, there were cameras on her trying to find out would she play, but at the end of the day, she did not play. All she could do was watch as the team came back from 2 goals down, and they won the final match by 3-2 against Wolfsburg. Now with the Super Falcons, she has had even worse luck with injuries. Only played 1 match of the Women's AFCON, and since then her only matches have been the last 2, the match against Haiti and the match against New Zealand. She did score a goal against Haiti, but almost on cue she picked up an injury against New Zealand. Next up, we got Desiree Joseph of Wuhan Chegu Jiahan in China. That's the Chinese First Division. She recently made a return to the Super Falcons, and that was after missing the Women's AFCON because of travel travel issues. She played the last 2 matches against Haiti and New Zealand. Really nice performances in both matches. I feel like Desiree Joseph is one of the few players in football that looking at their stats doesn't really help you to know what she's about. You look at her club stats and you're like, oh, this is just an average striker. But when you look at her play, she's a proper striker. Real difficult to deal with, and she's always gonna give trouble to the opposing defense. And if you dare let her get that ball on her right foot, you might be in a whole bunch of trouble, because she can strike the ball just as good as anybody in women's football. Moving on, and next we got Francisco Adego of CSKA Moscow. CSKA Moscow in Russia, that's the Russian First Division. This is a player that has been a big part of the Super Falcons in the years past, but lately her position has kind of dwindled in the team. Now she does play from time to time, but it's not like it used to be before. Before she was an automatic starter. Now she might start a match and come off at halftime, or might just be on the bench for the whole of the match. But that being said, I still feel she has quality and she has a lot still to give to the Super Falcons. I feel the situation with Odega might be that she has put the standards so high, the bar so high, that she might not be able to reach it herself, because when you look at her past performances for the Super Falcons, it's not hard to figure out why people are feeling shortchanged by her recent performances. Next and last but not least of the forwards, we got Esther Coronco of AS Saint-Etienne in France. Actually no longer of AS Saint-Etienne. She now plays for UDG Tenerife in Spain. She plays with Gift Monday. She made the move at the end of the season. I don't know why the NFF still got AS Saint-Etienne, and myself went along with it. But either way it goes, Esther Coronco now with UDG Tenerife in Spain. She linked up with the Super Falcons in 2021. That was at the Summer Series in the US. And at that point, if I'm not mistaken, she had just graduated from school, was just turning pro. She didn't do that much in that competition, to be honest. Although she did have the ball in the back of the net, but the goal was canceled at the end. Her big moment with the Super Falcons came in the women's AFCON qualifiers. That was against Ivory Coast. She picked up 1 assist in the first leg, which was in Abuja. Then in the second leg in Ivory Coast, she scored the match winner. Then after that, disaster struck. She got injured, I believe a knee injury, serious injury, and she missed the women's AFCON, missed a whole bunch of time. She made a return in those last 3 friendly matches in Mexico. She scored the goal against Costa Rica, the goal that ended the Super Falcons losing streak. Then scored against Haiti in one of our last 2 friendly matches. She also played the match against New Zealand, so she's definitely healthy and ready to go coming into this competition. So yeah, those are all the players selected to represent the Super Falcons at the upcoming Women's World Cup. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.